Good evening, everybody. Welcome all. My name is Raju Chamarthi, Provost at the University of Silicanandra. As you all know, University of Silicanandra is bringing a series of 8 wonderful webinars during the summer. Today's topic is the importance of understanding the language for dance and music. It's a very wonderful topic. It's in everybody's mind. And we have an amazing panel of 8 professors from University of Silicanandra's Telugu, Sanskrit, Kuchipudi, dance and Carnatic music departments. It is my privilege to introduce such an accomplished panel. First, before we get to the panel, I want to recognize the presence of Dr. Amy Catlin, the Board of Trustee at the University of Silicanandra, who is also here, who joined the panel discussion today. With the panelists, first, Dr. Mrunalini Chunduri. She is the department chair, Telugu department at University of Silicanandra. And Dr. Mrunalini Garu will be the moderator for today's discussion. Joining her on the panel are Dr. Varija Rani, faculty member in Telugu department at University of Silicanandra. Dr. Vasanta Lakshmi Garu, she is the department chair, Sanskrit department at University of Silicanandra. Dr. Vani Bhandaram, faculty member in Sanskrit department at University of Silicanandra. Dr. Yashoda Thakur, department chair, Kuchipudi dance at University of Silicanandra. Dr. Ramadevi Garu, faculty member in the Kuchipudi department, University of Silicanandra. Followed by Dr. R.S. Jayalakshmi Madam, department chair, Carnatic music department at University of Silicanandra. And finally, Dr. T.K. Saroja Garu, who is the faculty member in Carnatic music department at University of Silicanandra. It's a wonderful panel of 8 accomplished professors from the University of Silicanandra. To read more about these wonderful panelists, please visit our website at universityofsilicanandra.org. University of Silicanandra is a non-profit 501c3 academic institution. Our focus is Indian fine arts and languages. We have been operating for the last 4 years. A lot of details are available on our website. So please participate in this discussion openly. And it will be a 90 minutes discussion. To ask questions, please use the raise hand feature in the participants panel. All the participants are muted. So the first, probably a third of the discussion would be among the panelists. They will set the stage for the discussion. Followed by anybody can join, they ask questions. So if you have a question or a suggestion, anything, comments that you need to make, you please raise the hand, and Sridevi Ganti Garu or Falimadhav Garu, one of them will unmute you, at which point you could, start talking. So thank you for joining again. I welcome you all, and now I hand over the stage to our moderator, Dr. Mrunalini Garu. Mrunalini Garu, please take it from here, madam, and welcome all again.
Thank you, Raj Garu. Thank you for handing over the mic to me for this very interesting discussion of understanding language for music and dance, the importance of it. So I welcome all the panelists as well as the participants, and I would like to just give you the format of the discussions. In the first round, I'll be asking each of the panelists to give a brief assessment of the topic, how they respond to the title of this topic. And in the second round, I'll be asking them specific questions to each of them so that they can answer that particular, which is their area of specialization. And round 3 would be the audience. Anybody who's participating in this, if they do have a question, as Rajgaru was saying just now, they can ask questions or seek clarifications on issues. They can ask a specific speaker, or they can pose a question in a general manner. So coming to the topic. So this topic about language, music, and dance, about these 3. We all know that among the fine arts, these 3 are intertwined and interlinked and interdependent. If we leave out the other 2, painting and sculpture, which have not much to do with literature, these 3 are definitely dependent on each other. So how does it work? I mean, is it imperative that a performer of dance or music should learn language, literature, and understand what they are performing? So there are many opinions over this way and that way, both the ways. And I would like to quote one literary scholar in Telugu. He is both proficient in music and literature, Sriman Ralapalli Anantakrishna Sharma, who was the first one to tune Annamacharya. The Brahma Kadgina Padamu that we all sing was actually tuned by him. So he said in one of his radio talks, music without comprehension of literature is like a tambura without shruti. You see, the singer need not be proficient in music, but unless he understands what he is singing, he will not be able to create rasa siddhi in the audience. So that is his assessment of this thing. And then you have about dance. In fact, even GNB said in one article while talking about Tyagaraja's lyrics, he said Telugu is, you have to learn some Telugu to sing Tyagaraja. And thankfully, he says, Telugu is not a difficult language to learn. It is flexible. Its syntax, its grammar are both flexible. So you can learn Telugu, but you should learn Telugu before rendering a Tyagaraja Kriti. That is what the very well-known, renowned musician G.N. Balasubramanian said. And then when we come to dance, we know what Sharangadeva said. Pratipadartha abhinayam. Nrityam is pratipadartha abhinayam. So pratipadartha obviously means the language. You have to be able to emote all the meanings of all those words, syllables in a song while you are performing a dance. And again, you have Kapila Vatsaya. You know, she has written a great treatise on classical dances, and she says Indian classical dance would be a dead technique without the rich sahitya that forms the basis of this art. So we have this type of opinions where they clearly say that language and these performing arts mingle with each other, they're dependent on each other, and you should be able to understand the language, whatever you are performing. So with this small introduction to the subject, I would like to go to my panelists about what they think in a general manner about this topic and how they respond to it. Dr. Yashoda.
Namaskaram, madam. Thank you. Namaskaram and good morning to all of you. This, I must say, is a pet topic for me because I'm all the time harping on this whole thing about dancers. Please work on your literature and work on your music, because I missed out on a few of them during my childhood. Now, I will address dancers, especially because it is such an inclusive art form, and that's the beauty about dance, that we want everybody. We want the art, the painters, we want the sculptors, we want the literature people, and we want the musicians as part of us. All of them make us. And so that makes dance so much more richer. Now, coming to dancers, we are usually told about Rasa Siddhi. Let's not discuss too much about Rasa Siddhi or that state of ecstasy. It's a whole lot of discussion. But we are told that that dancer who creates Rasa Siddhi is the one who is the most exalted and the best dancer. Agreed. But does that mean that other dancers who are in the making, moving towards Rasa Siddhi don't get a stage? That's not right. Everybody gets a stage, right? You have different kinds of dancers who come on stage and just create an ambience, a pleasant ambience for you. You have dancers who just come and tell a story very effectively and they go. You have dancers who communicate what's in the lines and go. And you have the dancer who gives you an experience that you cannot forget for life. But every category of this dancer needs to know language. What are you dancing for? Let me stick to Indian dance because that's my area of expertise. I will talk about Indian dance. Every dancer who would have begun, typically we start at the age of 6 or 7. We start at 6 for years together, 4 or 5 years, ideally, we are only doing physical exercise. We are doing Nritya, where the body is exercised, we are moving the body and training the body. And every day you have the mother and the dancer saying, Maku paatalu eppudu modal pedtaru? When will we start dancing to songs? What is a song? Song is where the word is. So the word is so important. You are subjecting your body to this kind of exercise and this kind of movement to emote to word, which comes after 6 or 7 years of rigorous exercise and movement of the body. And you are preparing your body so that the emotion or the meaning of the word reflects on through you in its perfect sense. it just shows how important it is for you. How much, sure, Nritta has its own beauty. Absolutely, no doubt about it. How much of Nritta can you do? There is at one point, our scriptures definitely say that dancer who is very good at abhinaya or exegesis, bodily exegesis, in the sense, not, let me put it very straight, that when I say abhinaya, I'm not talking just of the face. I'm talking about abhinaya that oozes out of the body, that just comes through the body without too much effort. To reach that point, you need to know your language. And I'm generally accosted with this question saying, why do you harp so much on language? I can read, write, and speak Telugu. What more do you want? So if you can read, write, and speak Telugu, my students from the masters who have done choreography will vouch with me. When you had to do a choreography piece, how difficult did you find to pick up a song? Why did you find it so difficult? Essentially because reading, writing, and speaking Telugu is not enough. You need to know how much literature is there out there. So the next question is, by doing these courses or by studying Telugu, don't we have to go to anybody else? Do we gain all the expertise by ourselves? No, you don't. We still have to go to the expert. We still have to go to the expert. And any number of dictionaries and translations and onlines will still make you go in flesh and blood to that person. Because this is an emotional contact that you have. But you cannot expect the expert to do the research and tell you what you would like to dance. So in effect, what is happening with today's dancers who want to do choreography is, you go to YouTube and you look for songs. Whatever is appealing to you musically and catchy for you musically is what you pick up and you dance to. How many of you delve into the literature and say, this is the literature I want to dance to, but this is what I want to dance? So how many of you know that there is Satyabhama who is described in our Mahabharata, Telugu Mahabharata, so beautifully? Did we ever explore that and pick up that Satyabhama and replicate it in Kuchipudi that we want to? Because we don't even know it. So what I'm saying is a little bit of going beyond just the word, just the meaning, speaking, talking of it, and going a little into the text will open windows for you. From there, the channels open out for you. Thank you, madam.
Thank you for your response. I would now like to ask Dr. Jayalakshmi to respond to this topic, the understanding the meaning of language for music. Dr. Jayalakshmi, ma'am?
Yes. Namaskaram to all. First of all, I want to say music should, what do you say there? It is both eyes for music. One is Sahityam, another one is music. Melody is first. Music itself is a language. And if you take music, there are two categories. One is Manodharmam and another one is Kalpitam. In Manodharmam, the Sahityam role is very less. Only for Neraval, we are taking a line and singing it. But for Kalpitam, if you take starting from Geetam to Kriti, Varnam, whatever musical piece we are having forms, in everything the language is involved. Whether it is Telugu, Sanskrit, Tamil, or Kannada, Malayalam, whatever it is. The language is very important. First, to pronounce the words properly. That is very important. Banduridigolu or Panduridigolu, this is a problem here when I am teaching to the students. So to understand the script, it's very important. The next one is how we have to split the words, where we have to split while singing. For that purpose, we need the language. And while you are singing, the emotion is very important. Music itself has the emotion. But if you know the meaning, you first swanubhavam, you can enjoy your music. If you enjoy your music, automatically it creates the enjoyment to others also. So by knowing the language, we can easily communicate the music in two ways. One is with music, another one is with language. So this is very important for a musician. I am categorizing it is in four ways. If you are a composer, without knowing the meaning, you can't compose. the first you know what is the meaning of that word, then or that what it is, whether it is a slokam or whatever it is. According to that only we are tuning the piece. So for that, the language is very important. So if you want to be a composer in music, because music, not only singing, you have to sometimes you have to compose on your own according to your necessity. And one more thing, as a teacher, you can't just teach whatever you are teaching. Even if you take Sri Gananatha, when you are teaching it, if you make them to understand the meaning, they never forget the words first. And it helps them to sing it properly. Being an instrumentist, with the help of the Sahityam only, I can teach them the melody. Without melody, we can't teach anything. Without Sahityam. Because melody is there. Alabana cannot be memorized because there is no Sahityam for that. With the help of the rhythm, we are having Sahityam for the composition. So to understand the raga, the musical forms are helping us. So in that way, it's very important. Language is very important. Another last one is the, what do you say, the musicologist. If you want to do research, if you take a topic of a composer, if you want to compare the composer's, what do you say, that songs with others, for example, take Tyagaraja and Annamacharya, how their music or how the lyrics are going. So these things, if you want to compare in your research path, language, all languages are important because most of the granthas are written in Sanskrit. So especially one thing I want to mention here, but first I want to sing a line here. The audience as well as all of you, watch that or hear that. Don't give importance to Ragam or Talam. Just take the Sahitya line and find out what is there in that. Okay? So, without Shruti, we can't sing. தமிழ் பனியில் தெலுங்கு பனி செய்தால் மலையாள பனி வரும், தமிழ் பனியில் தெலுங்கு பனி செய்தால் மலையாள பனி வரும், தமிழ் பனியில். So in Tamil Panil, if you do Telugu Pani, you will get Malayala Pani. What is the Pani? You have to tell it at the end. Thank you for the chance.
Thank you very much. And since you have already introduced Sanskrit, I would like to ask Dr. Vasanta Lakshmi, what's her take on this matter?
Namaskaram. It is said in Sanskrit, Vishwashreyah Kavyam. Kavyam is for Shreyaha, for the well-being of Vishwa, the world. Here, in ancient Sanskrit literature, Kavya means theatrical work, not a Shravya Kavya, not a Kavya like Raghuvamsha or Kumara Sambhava. Drishya Kavya. Drishya Kavya can either be a Nataka or a piece of dance. Anything is a Kavya. For that matter, even a small shloka is a Kavya in Sanskrit literature. And in the previous very old ancient days, Bharata considered not only the Satvika and Angika Abhinaya as a dance, but Vachika and Aharya. All four Abhinaya should be mingled with the presentation, mingled in the presentation. Right. If there is Vachika Abhinaya, this dance would be like a drama, like what you call Yakshagana nowadays. So that was the original form of the Natya. I'm using this loose term Natya, not the actual technical word Natya. Okay. This was supposed to be a combination of Angika, Satvika, Vachika and Aharya, all four Abhinayas together, and at first, all these presentations used to go night long. If it is started at about 9 o'clock in the night, it used to continue up to after the sunrise. And then the presentation used to be stopped and continued in the next day also if necessary. Right? And when there was such long presentation, all the 4 abhinayas were needed. And Vachika Abhinaya also was very important in those days, and the necessity to learn the language or know the language, the question did not arise in those days because they wrote in the language that they knew. And as it is happening nowadays, this interstate transportation of language was not there in those days. So people wrote in the language they knew, and they presented in the language they could present it. Now that we have a combination of various languages at once, the question of knowing the language when you present a drama, when you present a dance and music is arising, right? Now let us go to the aim of dance first. The aim of dance is Vishwashreyaha. Vishwashreyaha means it is the well-being of the complete society. The actual purpose of dance was to teach common folk, but the dance was not for scholars and learned people in the past. It was for the common folk. And the common folk who cannot delve into Dharma Shastras, Vedas and Puranas have to know, they had to know all the intricacies of Dharma and follow it. Okay, that's why all these dances are, they have the stories, anecdotes from Ramayana, Mahabharata, which have all the dharmas depicted by, all the dharmas preached by the Veda and Dharma Shastras in them. Okay, by learning, by seeing these dances, even a very common man used to know what is right and what is wrong. That was the very purpose of dance in the past. That's why it had the language that could reach a common man was used. Okay, now we have works in Sanskrit or in Telugu or in any other language, whatever. If the dancer knows every word that he or she is dancing to or gesticulating, then he can present the work clearly, and the meaning can reach the common folk. Now it is not common folk, it is learned people only that usually see the dance. But even they have to know what is being depicted by or what is being enacted by the dancer. So if the dancer herself does not know what she is dancing to, what can she convey to the audience? And there would be very long samasas. I'll pick up an example from Dalita Sahasranamam, which is known to everybody. Although it is not danced to, it is known to everybody. Bhakta Harda Tamo Bheda Bhanumad Bhanu Santatihi. This is a long samasa. In this long samasa, Bhakta Harda Tamaha Bheda Bhanumat Bhanu Santatihi, this many words are there. If this has to be depicted or this has to be shown, presented by a dancer, how will she present it without knowing what is meant by Bhakta, what is Harda Tamaha? Tamaha means darkness, everybody knows. What is Harda Tamaha? The darkness in the heart of the Bhakta, and this Tamaha has to be Bheda, has to be broken by Bhanumat, by the Bhanu, by the light of the goddess, and Bhanumat Bhanu Santatihi. She has the Bhanu Santati, the a lot of radiance about herself, which can break through the Bhakta Harda Tamaha. If this has to be enacted, isn't the dancer expected to know every word of every word of this samasa, big samasa?
Thank you very much. That was a very good explanation of that. And I now go to Dr. Ramadevi.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Namaste to all. So, being a classical dance practitioner, I want to share my views on this topic, restricting myself to the field of dance. As we know that whatever Indian classical dance forms we are seeing nowadays comes under the category of Nritya, except for Kathakali and Kuchipudi. But Kuchipudi nowadays, whatever we are seeing, all the Kuchipudi dancers doing all over the globe is the solo dance tradition. That comes under the Nritya tradition. So Bharata in his Natya Shastra spoken only about the Natya and Nritta. It is Nandikeshara who used the word Nritya and gave definition that Rasabhava Vyanjanadi Yuktam Nrityamitiryate. Simply we can say that Nritya is a combination of rhythm and expression. So in Nritya, the dancer conveys the meaning of the literature in that particular song written by the poet with the help of Chaturvida Abhinayas. Here, whatever the Abhinaya she is doing is not her perception. It is the poetic perception. The dancer has to do Abhinaya for the poet's expression. In Nritya, the Abhinaya, as ma'am said, Padardha Abhinaya. And whereas in Natya, the Abhinaya is for Vakyardha Abhinaya. Especially while doing a choreography, knowing the, as Yashoda said, knowing the language is very essential. When we have to do Padardha Abhinaya, we must know the word-to-word meaning of the literature of that song. Sometimes a single word may carry many meanings. In that context, we have to select the right meaning of that word, which the poet has used in that context. Then choose the right hand gestures to convey the word with appropriate facial expressions. If we don't know the language, this will become very difficult to do the correct Abhinaya. When you know the meaning of the word, automatically our expressions will enhance and focus. So I don't think learning a language is that difficult. It is just a matter of our interest and dedication towards whatever we are doing. So I insist, as so many years of experience, what I have learned is that every dancer should understand the language of the song, whatever they select to do the choreography and present it. This is my opinion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ramadevi. Now I'll ask Dr. Vani to respond to this topic.
Namaste. Actually, this language and music, both of them have emerged from the sound. The sound of a finitive word. Like if this kind of a sound is not found, not known to the world, the whole world will be in a darkness. As Dandi in 7th century rhetorician, he puts, idamanda tamaha krusnam jayeta bhuvanatrayam yadi shabdahvayam jyotihi asamsaram na dipyate. If this kind of a jyoti, the sound, is not there, then the whole world, all the three worlds would have been in the dark. Both of them have emerged from the sound, but in literature, in language, the sound along with the sense, it has preserved all the ideas, opinions, perfections, imperfections of the past and paved it to the future and made it understand the whole world now, the life of the world now. In music, with Archika, Gathika, Samika, Chatuswara, Audava, Shadava, Saptaswara, many ragas have evolved. But when you, this is also gives the bliss. And language with its sound and sense, that also gives a bliss, a joy to the reader, and the music gives a joy to the listener. But when it is both are joined together, this joy will become a long sustained joy. Like author puts, like Sangeetam api sahityam cha saraswatyaha stanadvayam ekam apata madhuram ekam alochanamrutam. Ekam apata madhuram, the music, the sound of the music, when you hear, when it falls into the ears, immediately it gives a immense joy. But literature is alochanamrutam. That is, when you churn it, read more and more, think about more and more of it, it gives a joy. It gives more and more joy. So music is a joy which is instantaneous. The moment immediately it gives a joy. But if it is combined with literature, and that joy becomes more and more sustainable, the joy will remain forever. This is what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Vani. Now I invite Saroja.
Namaste all. So, as R.S. Jayalakshmi Madam rightly said, music is a language by itself. But when we look at the purpose of any art, actually, every art form actually has a very huge purpose in life. We usually forget one of the purpose of any art form, that is the knowledge. We always hang around the entertainment aspect of the art form. So, but it encompasses everything in the world. Every art is a whole knowledge system. Any art, the purpose of any art is to educate us, is to elevate the best experiences of human life, right? So, I strongly feel that the blend of language to music, of course, then naturally to dance, makes this experience or this purpose serve easily, right? So, and actually what art does is it creates and actually it recreates the emotions. What we do when we sing a song which gives a sorrowful emotion, a joyful emotion, a vigorous emotion, different types of emotions. That means that we are actually recreating the experiences already we had or we have been undergoing in life, right? So to make this experience very specific and precise, obviously it is the language that helps. So pure music is like an abstract form, whereas music along with language becomes like a figurative, so that we can easily perceive it, we can easily assimilate it, it becomes accessible. So few points if we quickly look at, every language has its own beauty. Every language also has its twists and turns. The way we speak the language, there is a natural slang to the language. I think that also adds beauty to the musical twists and turns. Actually, why Vaggayakaras gave us varieties of compositions, the idea was to explore all these things together. One is to play with the emotions, to give the best experiences of emotions, to contribute as much knowledge as possible to the world. If you learn one single composition, lot of things you can learn easily through the lyrics, and of course through the lyrics. In a music, there is undoubtedly melody becomes the best expression or emotion that everybody looks for, but that is made very easy by the language. Even there is the Oxford Companion of Music, they define that it's very evident that the germ of all music lies in folk music. But when we look back at folk music, many ragas naturally evolved, but was that only melody that was the crux of the folk music? No. People tried to emote themselves through language. So, but now we have taken that as the basis even for the classical music. So that clearly shows that how much language is important. It's not that music becomes low if we say that music is dependent on language. No, actually it is complemented more. It elevates more. So there are a lot of points to discuss. Every one of already the speakers covered all the wonderful points. So language gives the best experience of art, and that is what Vagayakaras does, and that is why we prefer to listen to a composition, a song. In the definition of music, it says Geetam Vadyam Nrityam is Sangeetam. What is Geetam? Geetam is a song, not just a melodic structure. So song gives the best experience of life, and best knowledge can be explored through. And the grammar of music, suppose there is a Gopuchayati, Vasumahitam, Sumahitam, Mahitam, Hitam, Tam. How is it complemented through melody? Nida pa maga, da pa maga, pa maga, maga, ga. So they go hand in hand. The beauty is like all together elevated. So this is how language becomes intrinsic part of art actually. And as some of the previous speakers rightly said, it becomes like it is not that it is dependent on anything, because music is the medium of sound and language is nothing but the communication through sound. It becomes intrinsic part of the art form.
Thank
So
you,
these
Saroja.
are
That
some
was a
few
very
points. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. In fact, you also reminded us of Aristotle's definition of art. All art is imitation. And as you said, the recreation is the most important thing that an artist does. And now I invite Bharija Rani.
Thank you, ma'am. Namaskaram to everyone. Dukharthanam, Shramarthanam, Shokarthanam, Manishinam, Vishranti Jananam Kale, Natyametad Bhavishyati. This is said by Bharata. Dance gives relaxation, and dance relieves all the pains of all kind of people. So, how every piece of art depicts something, in the same way dance as well. You don't just move your body as you dance, just you narrate a story, or you describe several scenes. So as a part of it, there is a shloka of Kalidasa in Malavikagnimitra. He says, Angairantar nihita vachanai suchita samyagartha Padanyaso layamanugatastanmayatvam raseshu Shakhayo nirmrudurabhinayastadvikalpa nivruttau Bhavo bhavam nudati vishayadhragabandhasvayeva. In this shloka, Parivrajika, she describes about the dance of Malavika with the Guru Ganadasa. So she points out about 4 things in this shloka. She says that the first point is the Malavika, she conveyed the essence of the song using subtle gestures and movements. She unraveled layers of the song and presented essence, unraveling the music. So, and the second one is her feet moved to the rhythm. So second thing is the rhythm is important. And the third one is her complete involvement in the song was mesmerizing. And the fourth one is she used her gestures precisely and very effectively. These are the four points described about the dance of Malavika. So in the first line of the shloka itself, it says that the involvement of the dancer in the language and meaning of the song. So, in fact, the dance itself, I feel, the dance itself is a language. It has its own expression, the way of expression, and each and every mudra, gestures will give certain expression. So, I feel that the language is very important for a beautiful expression of dance. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks a lot. After this first round, I was very surprised and enthralled to learn that nearly all the speakers, all my panelists, have said that I almost unanimously declared that language is a very important part for both music and dance. And they've also given examples of how they are important, how intrinsic the relationship between the performing arts and language is. Now I would like to, that was more or less a general statement, but now I would like to go for a more particular questioning so that each of them, wherever they excel, they can give from out of their own experiences how they can corroborate what they've already said or what they would want to say additionally. First of all, I would like to go to Dr. Jayalakshmi. Madam, you are an instrumentalist par excellence. You play Veena. And for Veena, I mean, I've heard from many musicians say that language is not important, that important for music. Music is a language by itself. Well, that's of course an oft-quoted thing. And then they say that the example is given as how do you enjoy a mandolin of Srinivas or a Veena by Chittibabu or Imani? Because you're not listening to lyrics there, but still you enjoy. So, madam, how would you say that lyrics help you in your Veena? Do they help you? Do they make a difference?
Yes, definitely. See, like voice, all instruments has its own tonal quality. First, the tonal quality attracts all the persons. Whether it is mandolin, veena, flute, whatever it is. First, everybody is attracted by the tonal quality. But to understand or to learn music without sahityam, we can't learn a piece. In first round, I said the ragas are captured in compositions only. By learning the composition, we are learning the music or the raga. The grammar of the raga is learned through compositions. To learn the composition, we need the sahityam. If you teach Varaveena, it is Gaga Papa, okay. But if I teach only Gaga Papa, the Pasasa, the Swaram, it will definitely go inside the mind, no doubt in it. But if you do it with Sahityam, the Sahityam helps to understand the Raha more. Here I want to say, even all instrumental music is based on vocal music. Without vocal music, we can't do or play anything in instrument. If you see, notice the musicians of yesteryear instrumentalist, mostly they will prefer only to play the songs which are already popularized by the vocalist. Because if I play a song which is not already introduced in vocal, it never attracts the public. So I am talking about instrumentalists. So vocal is very important. Through vocal, we are learning in instrument that particular song and we are presenting it. How we are presenting it, how you know it. To communicate it, the lyrics is communicated with the help of, if it is flute, it is tutakaram. If it is veena, it is plucking. If it is violin, it is bow. I will give you an example. Paluke Bangaramayana Kodanda Pani Paluke, just this line. Ta 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 ta. I'm not singing the words, but the tune, the plucking will help you to understand the song. In the same tune, there is one more song. Singaravela Vandan. Here, the pluckings are ta 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 ta. See the difference. Ta 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 ta. Through this, we can easily communicate, but the listener should know the sounds. Otherwise, they may think both are polluted. So, what main thing is the plucking. The Ananda Bhairavi is there. Anyhow, it will communicate you. See, so many lyrics are there for this particular tune. Even in marriage, if you see, Kannun Jaladi Irundal Kanchana Malai. So it is a beautiful tune in Ananda Bhairavi. It is coming from folk. Rightly, Saroja says. Folk music is having lot of tunes. For that tunes, we modify it to classical with a classical touch, and we are applying Sahityam for that, and we are tuning it. So that is very important for a musician or a instrumentist to learn the music through the Sahityam with particular plucks. So if you take a Kriti, for example, one more example I want to say here, you know that Brochevarava in Kamas, composed by Vasudevacharya. The Anupallavi goes like this. O Chatura Nanna Divanti Dani Kupara Kelanaya. This is the tune, lyrics of the Anupallavi. After the Charanam, again 2 more lines are coming in the same tune, but the lyrics are different. The set of Sahityam is completely different. Adura Mukha Kariraju Nibrochina Vasudevudau Nivu Kada. So here, the O Chatura and Adura Mukhakari both are in the same tune, but with the help of the plucking, we are able to identify whether suppose if you enter in a concert in the middle of the concert, oh, they are in the Charanam part now, if they know the song. See, the musician should communicate properly and the audience should know the song, otherwise it is difficult. They know it is Kamas one song, that's all. So that in that way, the language is a very important, doing an important role in Carnatic music. So instrumentist also should know the meaning of the Sahityam, at least the Sahityam first. Without knowing the Sahityam, playing is...
That was a wonderful presentation, madam, especially. You are singing through Veena. In other words, you are just singing through Veena. So obviously you need the lyrics, and that was a wonderful exposition. Now I would like to go to Dr. Vasanta Lakshmi. Dr. Vasanta Lakshmi, we were talking about how, the impact of Sanskrit on music and dance. So you see actually that many performers performing Jayadeva, the Ashtapadis are performed, and Narayana Tirtha, Karangas are performed. So these mostly it is bhakti, devotional. So bhakti and Madhura Bhakti are the sort of emotions that are taught from a very young age to the dancers. So why do you think, they are already very well versed in presenting the bhakti or Madhura Bhakti, both. Pure Bhakti and Madhura Bhakti. But why do you think they need the lyrics to understand the lyrics of the Ashtapadi or a Taranga to perform it?
Bhakti or Madhura Bhakti, whatever Bhakti it is, or Shrungara, whatever emotion it is abstract. It has to be gesticulated. Either through Satvika Abhinaya or Angika Abhinaya. To present it properly, the dancer has to know every word. As I have told you, suppose you are praying to goddess Lalita, Bhaktaharda Tamo Bheda, I pick up the same example. Bhanumad Bhanusantatihi. For this one, if she simply joins her hands and bows down to the goddess, will that be a proper presentation of that word? It can't be. So it has to be, every word, Padartha Bhinaya should be there. It has to be, every word has to be enacted. And in Sanskrit, the problem with Sanskrit is that it has a great component, which is both advantage and disadvantage of the language. It is samasa. For this one, I give you a small example. Tvashtu Prajapati wanted to create a demon to kill Lord Indra. So for that, he performed a yajna and offered offerings into the fire, saying, Indra Shatrur Vardhasva. This term Indra Shatruhu can be compounded in 2 ways. Indrasya Shatruhu, Indra Shatruhu. The enemy of Lord Indra, that is the killer, the person who can kill Lord Indra. Or Indraha Shatruhu Yasya Saha Indra Shatruhu. The one who would be killed by Lord Indra. So with this, you know what happened? Vritrasura, who actually arose from the sacrificial fire of Tvashtu Prajapati, emerged as one who would be killed by Ladindra with a small mistake that was made by Twashtu Prajapati in articulating the word. So if such word has to be enacted by a dancer, how can she enact it, or how can she dance to it without knowing the meaning, without knowing the proper meaning? And there are certain words which are used very significantly. I'll show you another example which is known to all of you. In Savira Hetavadina, this Ashtapadi is very well known to everybody. In that one, the Duti says, Vyala Nilaya Milanena Garalamiva Kalayati Malaya Sabiram. She is Kalayati Malaya Samiram. She is feeling that she is experiencing the touch of Malaya Samira, the breeze that comes from Malaya Parvata, Garalamiva, like poison, like the touch of poison, because Vyala Nilaya Milanena, because it is mixed, the breeze wafts the fragrance of Chandana, sandalwood. Can Chandana, sandalwood turn into Garala all at once by itself? No, because it is Vyala Nilaya. The actual crux of the whole sentence is this. Vyala Nilaya. Chandana is a Nilaya, is a place where Vyala, snakes, live. And Malay Parvata, snakes entwine to the Chandana trees, sandalwood trees, for the coolness. Okay, so that's why the sandalwood trees are called, sandalwood is called Vyala Nilaya, an abode of snakes. Since it is an abode of snakes, Malay Chandana, the fragrance of Chandana has turned into Garala for Radha. Right. If this Vyala Nilaya is not used here, can that convey the entire meaning that is that has to be conveyed there? So whatever she enacts, or whatever she dances to, whatever she gesticulates, has to be known by the dancer. Every word has to be known by the dancer. I don't expect every dancer to be a Sanskrit scholar or a Telugu scholar or a Tamil scholar. There are teachers who can teach. There are teachers who can tell them the intricacies of every song, or intricacies of every word in the song. So a dancer is expected to approach a teacher, learn everything clearly, and then go for dancing.
Thank you, Vasantarakshmi. That was very clear. Especially the example from Savir Hetava was very clear. Now I'll go to Yashoda. Yashoda, you know that there are two types of literature as far as Kuchipudi dance is concerned, because you have dances, lyrics written for the dance, like Yakshagana. They were written with the purpose of dance. So that's a different thing. But now we notice that you Kuchipudi dancers are performing for a lot of Vagyakaras, from Nannamaya or Tyagaraja or Ramadasa. Kshetriya, of course, for some padas and javalis are also meant for dance. But otherwise, you're singing for everything up to Rabindranath Tagore. So why do you feel the necessity, if your dance was pure dance, if you don't need, why do you need more literature? Why do you need more lyrical literature for your dances?
Thank you, ma'am. I'm still reeling under the information given by my seniors here. So I will get myself to talk about this.
You got my question? You heard?
Yeah. I did. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah.
As Vasanta ma'am already said, yes, the literature and the dance forms written earlier and performed earlier were very localized. They were written for that particular sect of dancers in that particular village, in that language. And since all of them did that and the audience were used to it, it was a language that they all used in their daily life. So it was not like they had to make an extra effort to learn that language. It was part of life for them. Now dance is becoming more and more globalized. It has crossed borders, and there is this human tendency to always stretch your borders, go a little beyond what you can already do. And now we are dancing across across seas too, not just states. So once we are doing it, like when I go to Bengal, yes, I would like to do a Tagore piece there. When I go to UP, I would like to do a Meera Bhajan there. The danger comes when I just listen to a song on YouTube, pick it up and give it to the singer and say, and there is a meaning given there in the YouTube. Just give it to the singer and say, learn this, and I will do according to the meaning. I think it's a great disservice being done to the poet. He will turn in his grave, he or she, definitely. We need to avoid this because we want that correct emotion to come. Whether she does it or not, that effort has to be there. So what is the role of literature today? Dancers, please listen, because today the need to know not just your language, but to know allied languages, the language of English to communicate, and be aware and receptive to all other languages is even more because of globalization, and more because you want to dance across the world. If you want to dance just in your village, perfect, nothing wrong with that. Then you are happy with whatever language you know. But if you want to go across the world, you have a bounden duty to understand the language, sympathize with it, get the meaning right. You have a double duty. It's not a singer can learn the song and the sahityam and sing. You have the duty of learning it and teaching the singer. If you yourself are not in a position to understand it, what would you teach the singer so that it gets communicated? Not all singers are Balamurli Krishnas. Not all of them can sing just any language in that dialect and that lingo. We have Saroja with us who can do that. But there is that extra effort we need to really put into it if you want to go global. If you do not want to go global, it's perfectly fine. Ma'am, just if I have the time, there's just one more point I want to say, not completely connected with the question. There is also this misconception for dancers that we think only the poetic part of it or the kavya part of it applies to us. It is not true. Believe me, reading novels also, reading folk literature also makes a lot of difference for us. All of us talk about Lakshmana Devara Navvu. We talk about Hanuman opening his chest and showing Sita and Rama. Where do you have all that in Valmiki Ramayana? You have that in the folk literature. We are enacting all of them. How many of us acknowledge that this is from the Desi dances, this is from the local indigenous literature? We don't acknowledge, not because we don't want to, because we don't know. We have seen it in films and we are just enacting it. But if you read your literature, which is so beautiful, you would there are so many more stories you might want to do. So it's not just the poetic part of it, it is every genre of literature. And I also feel one language, if you can work on and gain your expertise in, the other languages will just rush into you. They'll come to you because you will have that empathy and reception towards language. It's the attitude. It's a matter of attitude.
Thank you, Yashoda. You've gone beyond language and gone deep into literature, for which I am very happy being a literature teacher. Yeah, you are right. And I think my question is connected, my question to Varija is connected to what you just said. You know, as you said, the dancer has to pick up a text or a song and then give it to the singer. So obviously, it is the singer who has to sing. In a dance, dancer doesn't sing, and only in movies the dancer sings and dances. Otherwise, there is somebody who's singing a song and then dancer is emoting that. So the singer needs to know the language, I agree. But does the dancer also needs to know the language? Why you are saying about the text? The dancer can't possibly learn a Tagore and a Mirabai. You have to read a Bhojpuri, you have to learn Bengali, and you have to understand Hindi if you do Tulsidas, Doha or something, and you have to obviously learn Telugu because I'm talking about Tyagaraja Ranamaya. How many languages can a dancer master? The singer agreed. They have to know the meaning. So, Varija, what would you say? Does the dancer also need to understand the language, the various languages, or just go by whatever the singer is singing and the music is doing?
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Actually, singer anyway have to understand the lyrics of the song to express whatever is conveyed in the literature. So, Actually, for dancer, the song is not a lip syncing like a movie. They have to understand. They have to understand the meaning of that song, whatever the language it may be. So they have to understand the language and they have to express completely. And actually, what I feel is, first of all, artists should think from the audience point of view. What makes them understand the art of dancing? Despite they are not aware about the technicality or the difficulty level involved in the dance. So, it is essential to understand what is being conveyed by the dancer or artist. If they are failed to convey the meaning of it, it turns out to be a boring performance. Unless until it is some kind of an energetic dance like Shiva Tandavam, Perini, or whatever it is. So when the language is a barrier between the artist and the audience, the only way an artist can maintain interaction with the crowd by precisely portraying the characteristics and the emotions evolved in the story to be conveyed. So, and the dancer has to understand the meaning of the language. For example, not only dancer, even a musician also should know and understand the inner meaning of the literature. I'll just say one small example. That is, Madhura Nagarilo, Yamuna Laharilo, Aradha Giti Palikindi. Achcheruvuna vichina kandula juda. See, in those two lines, we have Aradhana Giti. They should know the difference between these two words. And in the same way, Achcheruvuna means Acheruvuna. So, if the dancer doesn't understand the language and the literature, and there will be so much in the literature, like Alankaram will be there, Dhvani is there, Vakropi, Vyangyam. There are so many critical things are there in the language. So they have to, any dancer have to understand the language very thoroughly. And I will just give you a very small example. Like if a dancer is going to perform a Narasimha Shabdam or Ramayana Shabdam kind of a thing, to a German people, means you are performing in Germany. So you are going to perform from Telugu. The song is in Telugu and those people knows only German language. They don't know Telugu. So how do you convey? You have to become Janaka Maharaja and Sita and Rama, all the characteristics of that's Sita Swayamvaram or whatever the situation is. So you have to understand and you have to convey whatever you want to convey. That means what I feel is you have to relive the whole episode as each character that is involved, and it's impossible without understanding the language for a dancer. Thank you.
Thank you, Varija. Just you also taken forward the globalization impact like Yashoda did. Yeah, you're right about that. Now I'd like to go to Saroja. Saroja, actually in music there are very rigid schools about literature and music. Some people say that music does not need literature. There are quite a few people who say that. In fact, I had a discussion about it with Lokalachan Satyanarayana long back when he said that we don't need language, we don't need literature. So, and there is another school which says that literature is an intrinsic part and you need lyrics. So, what do you say about these two diametrically opposite versions or stands that musicians take?
Yeah, though it looks like a personal choice of a musician, it's not actually so. Everybody has to obviously agree that language is intrinsic part of music or any like these art forms. It's simply like our mother, in between mother and father. It's like You can be more intimate to either mother or father, but nobody would like to say that I don't bother about my mother or I don't bother about my father. I am only concerned with my. It's like words and music go together like a father and mother. How can you deny somebody totally? That is what I strongly feel. And see, how can we say that I'm not bothered about pronunciation of other languages because I don't know the language? It's not right. It's again like we respect our mother, but we respect everybody's mother equally. We don't say that my mother is important. uh, what am I to do with it? We never feel like to say that. It's like that common sense thing. And see how beautiful are certain things about different languages also. Suppose I am a Telugu, I would love to sing in different languages because through the songs I get to learn at least small words easily. It expands my knowledge of languages also. And see, just quickly if I give examples, Krishna ni begane baro. You know that now borrow is to come. It's not borrow of English. So you will play with the word baro, baro. You take the advantage of knowing the word to play with the word also. So how can you deny these things? And also, suppose if we take common example, suppose there is a name maybe called Anirudh. Somebody unfamiliar with the word may call it like Anirudh. Don't you correct him till he comes close to the pronunciation. You know that he is calling you. The communication is very clear that he is not addressing anybody but you. But you will feel like to correct him till he at least gets close. Why? Because we enjoy the sonic beauty of the words. We want to be true to the words and their pronunciation also. So it's not wrong if we commit mistakes because of the unfamiliarity with the language. Even that happens. I being Telugu, I might sing some of the Telugu words also wrong because language is vast. We need not know each and everything in Telugu. But I feel that it is our minimum responsibility to just respect the language and enjoy. And another very important thing is, it's not for some audience. Even if nobody is listening to you, if you are singing a composition of totally different language, then also if you learn the words, you feel like you are elevated to different realms of life because of the holistic experience you get. So once I had to sing a Marathi song, Sakha Madha Narayana. So I didn't know that I was singing something like Majha. They said, no, it's Madha, Madha. So they're very particular. So they feel like so homely. They will include you as your family member if you pronounce the things correctly, if it is a public performance. So why should we be going away from all these inclusions? So accepting language is nothing but including something and we becoming big. So these are all. And another very important thing, if you look into different genres of music, the main basis of classification of genres is the language and the kind of poetry. Like Padam is Sringara, Kirtana is devotional, Varnam has less lyrics. That is what we first teach along with the musicality. My argument again doesn't highlight the fact that music is secondary. No, I enjoy even a single note. Even if you sing properly to the sound of Shruti box, you transform yourselves into something else. That is always there. But it's an inclusion. Language actually strengthens the best experiences of life. So it has to be accepted, and I can never agree to that school of thought who puts language aside and said we are making only musical experience better. That is not acceptable. It helps you as an individual to grow and grow and grow and help others also grow. That
Thank
is
you,
what
Sarojini.
I experienced. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say about the classification. You're very right about that. And we'll take it up. I will have to answer a question posed to me about for whom are you singing? Okay, anyway, that we'll take up later. Now I'll go to Vani. We've been talking about Sanskrit and dance quite a bit. Vani, can you tell me, Swati Tirunal or Dikshitar, they've made more kritis in Sanskrit. Even for that matter, Annamaya Tyagi also made some kritis in Sanskrit. So when they're singing Sanskrit song, how much of understanding of the song, the meaning should be there for the musician? Dr. Vani.
Definitely, people should, the singer or the performer, they should know the language very well. Very well in the sense, whatever the composition they are singing. It's not that they have to learn the whole Sanskrit language and all. But if they are singing one song, performing one bit of the dance one, they should know the each and every meaning of each and every word. Most of the word Indian languages, Sanskrit influence is quite a lot there. Especially Muthuswami Dikshitar's compositions are more in Sanskrit only. Even Tyagaraja Krutis, Annamayas are also there in Sanskrit. And each of this composition, it shows, it reveals the personality, the knowledge, and the command over the language, and the choice of the words. Just now, as Saroja was also telling, the choice of the words and its expression. These are all the composer's choice. And the person who is singing, who is performing, he or she should definitely step into the shoes of that composer and sing. Because the bhava, the emotion, the latent emotion, the dormant emotion should come out and evoke the same kind of emotion in the audience. That is called a universalization by Abhinava Gupta in Dvanya Lokalochana. This universalization makes us go close, near to the bliss, which we call it as Brahmanandam. It leads to that Brahmananda. And the raga, for a singer, raga, tana, ragam, tanam, other things, swakalpana, it can be of their choice, but the song part, the composition part should be correct. In Sanskrit, it says, bahuna adhitamapi putra, bahuna na adhitamapi putra, patavyakaranam. Because swajanaha swajanaha, sakrut, shvakrut, it will become like that, sakalam shakalam. Swajanaha will become, if you don't understand the language, if you don't learn the language, Swajana becomes a Shvajana. Swajana is our own people, Shvajana is the dogs. If we want to say that, and in Tyagaraja Krutis, quite a number of times we get Sakala Manobhirama, Sakala Janabhirama. If you say, instead of saying Sakala, if you say Shakala, Sakala is everything. Shakala is pieces, breaking into pieces. In the same way, Sakrut is a number of times. Shvakrut is a cow dung. And this kind of mistakes will come if you don't learn the language and if you don't learn the pronunciation. This is the part of the pronunciation. And coming to the language part, Sanskrit language has a lot of sandhis and samasas. Quite a number of times I heard in Kruti like Banturi Tikolu, Tunta Vinti Vani, Modalaina Vani. I can't sing like Varija. Definitely not like Saroja and Madam RSJ, but not like even the Varija linguist. Tunta Vinti Vani, Modalaina Vani, Modalaina Madadula Chand, Madadula Kula Dosi. This Madadula is, you have to split it like Mada Adula, Mada Moha Masarya, like that, 6 devices, with 6 vices. And this Madadula, quite a number of times I heard as Mada, and have a break there, give a small break there, and then sing it as Dula. Dula is a very bad word in Telugu. And this kind of mistakes do come in performing, in singing a song. And that too, especially in Dikshitar Krutis are all Sanskrit based. And the choice of the words are very different. Meenakshi Mudam Dehi, it's a very popular one. I don't know much of Dikshitar Krutis, but Meenakshi Mudam Dehi. In that one, in one phrase he uses as Madhu Mada Modita Hrudaye in one line. Madhu Mada Modita Hrudaye. In the second line, Madhu Mura Ripu Sodari. These are all epithets, adjectives for Kamakshi. And Madhu Mada Modita Hrudaye is here Madhu. In the second line is also it is Madhu. But in the first one, Madhu Mada Modita Hrudaye is the Kamari. the person who killed, who subdued Manmada, and she's the heart of that Lord Shiva. In the second one, Madhu Mura Ripu Sodari, this Madhu is the demon. Madhu Ripu, Madhu, Mura, these are all the demons who are killed by Lord Vishnu. His Sodari. Like that. These are two different things. And the same Kirtana, Mechakangi, he uses the word Mechakangi. Mechaka means dark, black in color. Mechaka Angi. The Sandhi, they have to split it properly. Mechaka Angi. Not as Mechaka, Mecha Kangi. If you do in a Vyakarana, we say that Akanksha Sannidhi Yogyata has to be there. The Sannidhi, if it is not there, the proximity of the two words is not there, the meaning gets totally.
Thank you very much, Pani. Actually, you explained well how the Sandhi
learning language is very much necessary.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Pani. Now, my last question is to Ramadevi, because we are talking about what students should learn, and she being a teacher. I want to ask her, while you teach Kuchipudi dance to your students or any dance to your students, how much emphasis do you give for them to learn the song with the meaning? Do you teach them that too as a teacher?
Yes, ma'am. I do teach because I am for in my first session also I said, understanding the word meaning is very important to enhance our abhinaya. So nowadays we have more students from so many other languages, like Tamilians are there, Malayalis are there, Telugu people are there, Kannada people are there, North Indians are there, so many people. And mostly what we do in Kuchipudi is Telugu songs. So I insist on the word meaning. And then I show, because of this meaning, we are holding this mudra. And as in my first session I said, there will be few more meanings also, like in our Ramayana Shabdam, Araya Tammunaka Abhyamichitini. So that Araya has, when I search, there are two meanings, who is worried and who came in search of Rama. So I have to explain them. These are the meanings. So in this context, what meaning is suitable, that we have to show and we have to do it. So it is the teacher's responsibility, because the students start learning from the very young age. So when we make them to understand the importance of word meaning, when they grow into a teacher, definitely, or the choreographer, they will get that habit of searching for the word meaning and what exact mudra we have, because nowadays we have so many books online, also we have so many sites which gives references and meanings and everything, and we have so many scholars around us, and we have to search for them and we have to find out. And so I feel that it is responsibility of a teacher, when we are teaching, tell the student that you should give importance for the language, understand the song, understand the word, and then when you understand, the bhava automatically will come. You don't have to artificially do it. When you don't understand the meaning, you will just mimic whatever your teacher say. But when you know the meaning in your own way, that is why we see various abhinayas. For same kirtana, we'll find so many different, because the way I take, and in my experience, I'll put it. So I feel it is the duty of every dance teacher to emphasis on language learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramadevi. This more or less concludes our second round. Only thing is, I am representing Telugu, and one question has been posed to me already, even before this, whether we go to a kacheri to listen to Tyagaraja for his music or for his lyrics. This was the question. Why do you go to Tyagaraja? What does the audience receive in a musical performance? What does the audience want? Do they come there for the music or for the lyrics? So this question was asked by someone, I think, who are more prejudicial towards the music. I don't know. But anyway, the way I would answer it, because if I'm also one of the listeners, I'm not a singer. So when I go to, I'm sitting in a performance. So I'm listening to Raga Karahara Priya. The Vidwan is singing beautifully, but I'm waiting. The Raga is over. Violinist also finished his Raga. Now I am waiting with bated breath whether he is going to sing పక్కన నిలబడి చక్కని రాజమార్గము ఆర్ రామని సమానం ఎవరు. మై పర్సనల్ చాయిస్ ఇస్ చక్కని మార్గం బికాస్ ఇట్ హస్ గ్రేట్ మీనింగ్. చక్కని మార్గం ఉండగా సందులు గోరనేలా. ఇట్స్ అ వండర్ఫుల్ కంపోజిషన్. సో ఐ లైక్ ఇట్. సో ఐ హ్యావ్ యాక్చువల్లీ వెయిటింగ్ ఫర్ ది లిరిక్స్ టు కమ్. Not me. I'm not just saying about me because I am a Telugu lecturer, but most of the people identify with Tyagaraja because of the songs they like. And a song is nothing without lyric. Without lyric, it's only music. So you can't say that what do you expect from Tyagaraja? Tyagaraja is both his lyrics and his music. Tyagaraja can't be only his music or only his lyrics. He's both of them. So when have a choice in the language, when Kalyani, somebody is singing, I would like Nidhisala Sukama, but that person sings Yeta Unara Nilakadaniku, I am disappointed. So these things happen. When I am in the audience, these things do happen to me. And one more thing I would like to say is, because I've heard the way the words are broken when somebody is singing. I think Vani was mentioning it. Devagandhari Kirtana, Kshira Sagara Shayana. I heard one particular singer singing Kshira Sagarasha Yana. Throughout the Kriti, he was singing Kshira Sagarasha Yana. Obviously, he didn't try to understand the word, understand the Kriti before he sang it. And Chintala Betta Valana Rama, he sang as Chintala Betta Valenu Rama. So sometimes if it doesn't make any difference in the meaning, it's okay if you can't break a word properly. But when it makes a difference, and especially Kshira Sagara Shayana being one of the greatest kritis of Tyagaraja. If you understand the music, the song completely, it has all the 4 yugas. If only you can interpret Kshira Sagara, you understand the meaning of that song. It has the Satya Yuga, the Treta Yuga, the Dwapara Yuga, and the Kali Yuga. You have all. You have Mahabharatam, Bhagavatam is there, Satya Yugam, and then you have Rama, Treta Yuga. You have Krishna and Draupadi, Nari Maniki Chirali Chinadi Vindanura. So you have Bharatam there, and that means Dwapara you have, and then you come to Ramadasa. And so Kali Yuga is there. So all the 4 yugas are represented. It's one of Tyagaraja's best songs. And when I try to see the way people have sung this, I saw that Vinna Nura, that is also broken there. So what I mean to say is the experience that audience gets. It's true. And I agree entirely with Saroja on one thing. It's not only when you have an audience. It's not only just to play for the audience. If you want to play for the audience, your Swarakalpana will do it most of the time. Ragalapana to Swarakalpana, your Manodharman things will do everything there. But if you want to do justice to the composer and the song and your art, first of all, forget everything else. If you want to do justice to your own art, your own artistry, your own creativity, we have to realize that both the lyrics and the music are a combination and not away from each other. They are not distinct from each other. So I gave a brief question and I think I opened it up.
Sorry,
I opened it up for discussion. Yes, sir.
Pranal Garu, sorry, there are some hands raised from the audience.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm going.
The first one is from TKL Sujata Garu. We will unmute you, madam. You can ask that question to the panel. TKL Sujata Garu. Please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Namaste, Andy. Actually, this is a very interesting discussion. Thanks for the organizers to arrange such a great panel discussion. So I would like to ask you, madam, anybody from the music or the dance, that how language helps otherwise in addition to the emotional aspect and all, are there any other new avenues to express or something? So I would like to know how the language helps in other ways.
Yashoda, you would like to answer?
I am not clear about the question, ma'am. How language helps in other aspects in the sense...
Not just emoting, even otherwise.
Are there any other avenues?
I get it.
Avenues.
Right. Yes. So according to the language that is used, Sujata, I am not an expert in it, but our language experts will tell us, you can also identify the time period of the song and the writer. You have so many compositions, the composers of whom you don't know. People just wrote it and others sang it, right? So according to the literature, people find out the composition, the time period one, the culture, the society at that period, what was the culture, what was the society, what were the practices at that time. They're all generally reflected only through the script, the language.
Yes.
So the word. So I can think
Exactly.
of those. I'm sure there are so many more that that are included in that.
If I can add to you one more other very interesting thing that I also experience is, if you try to learn certain compositions like Ghanaraga Pancharatnas of Tyagaraja properly, knowing the word division clearly, that actually helps to exercise on your breath also, breath control.
Yes.
Suppose if you say Aganita Guna, Kana Kachela, Sala Vidalana, Arunabja, Samana, but how do we sing according to Swaram? Aganita Guna Kana Kachela Sa Lavidalana Runa Jasama Nacharana, where you don't get the sense of words. But if you want to communicate the sense also, it's like a challenge on the breath actually. It's very difficult. Aganita Guna Kana Kachela Sala Vidalana Runa Abjasama Nacharana Para. There you can take a breath, Mahima, because till that I is linked to every word, which actually gives. So I take it as a challenge on improving the breath also sometimes. That's, I think, a new something other than the emotions and the cultural aspect of it.
Very.
It almost becomes equal to the chanting of Veda.
Yes.
Next question, please.
That's where the
Anybody?
pranayama
Yes,
comes in.
that's what Bharata says, na? Patyam Natyam Tata Geyam
Vani, there's another question. There's a question from
Chitravaditrame.
Malaswami.
Vedamantrartha vachanaihi samam hetat bhavishati. This dance, music, all these things. Patyam, Natyam, Geyam, Chitravaditram.
question has
All
been
these things
answered.
are Vedamantrartha vachanaihi. It is equal to Vedamantrarthas.
Next
So
question,
we'll
please.
go to we'll go to the next question. Next question is from Dr. Malaswami Garu. Please unmute yourself and go ahead, madam.
Namaste, wonderful session. And I could look at this whole session from a point of view or a perspective of a performer. And I could agree with whatever Saroja Garu or Vasanta Lakshmi Garu or Yashoda or anybody talked from a performer's point of view. This was more discussed from the performer's point of view, that, language, the importance of language. But when it comes to dance and when it comes to Sanskrit literature, I would call myself as an amateur, as a rasika. Bhakta Hardat Tamo Veda Bhanumat Bhanu Santati. I recite Lalita Sahasranamam without understanding. Today she revealed the beautiful meaning of this one particular line when there are 182 lines in Lalita Sahasranamam. But that one line's meaning today we got to know. But I have been reciting this for probably 40 years or more without understanding the meaning. So like Saroja pointed out, not only music has its own language, dance, literature also has its own language. The sonic beauty that you was talking about. So as a lay person who does not understand the intricacies of Sanskrit language, I'm still able to enjoy a verse being recited, the very sound effect of it, the sonic beauty of the verse. I don't know dance. I don't know, when I go to a dance recital, I do not know what exactly they may be depicting. Sometimes I'm definitely in a kind of a question mark. What is the story? But the beauty of the movement. So from the audience point of view, the Rasika point of view, we've not addressed this, of course, that probably might require another session. But the entire session has been handled from a performer's perspective. What about the Rasika who does not really know the Sahityam or the literature, but is still able to enjoy whatever? Like I am able to, if I go to a Veena recital by RSJ ma'am, I don't need to understand what, of course, being a musician, I do understand what she's singing or playing. But from a Rasika's point of view, it's the sheer music. So there, what role does literature or meaning of Sahitya play for a Rasika when you're totally mesmerized by the sonic beauty? And just like Vasanta Lakshmi Garu just recited that beautiful line, she told us the meaning, but without the meaning, aren't we able to enjoy the beauty of Sanskrit slokas?
Can I answer?
Dr. Mala, can I pose another question to you?
Yes.
Do you enjoy it more now since you understood the meaning of one line?
Yes, definitely. I agree.
You're happy, you're
I
happy around you.
advocate. I do advocate as a musician. I do advocate and I vouch for knowledge of Sahitya for better understanding and better,
No, even as an audience, I mean.
enjoyment.
Even as an audience.
Yes. But when you go to a concert, are you really able to verbally explain what you're doing? No. But the audience is still able to connect with you and enjoy what you're doing because each of this literature, dance, music has its own language to communicate, even though they are not able to understand. From the perspective of a performer, it's good for you to know the meaning because you can express or you can project it better. But from the audience point of view, I do not think that knowledge of literature or whatever you're performing, the performer, they need to really understand word to word of what they're doing. I think the very action of dance, the very sound of music, the very sound of literature is enough.
Mala,
Mala, just Yashoda.
Mala, in the opening sentences itself, I told that Sangeetam is Sangeetam, dance are the Anubhuti Pradhanas. Anubhuti Pradhana is, that is, it gives a momentary joy. But as long as you are watching, as long as you are listening, you will feel happy. And this perception is very prominent in dance and music. And it churns the heart and makes your cognizance very much honeyed, madhuram. It makes. But literature, the language, the meaning of the language is alochana pradhana. The alochana pradhana is contemplation. The moment you contemplate, you observe, you reflect, and you reflect your life situation with the performer, and you enjoy it, ascribing them to you. They will be acting like Kamakshi on the stage or Rama on the stage. You will ascribe those qualities into you because of your thinking, alochana pradhana. And this kind of an intellect, churning of the intellect, it gives a joy which is an everlasting one, which is a continuous, not that after the kacheri is over, you come out and for half an hour or 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, you will enjoy that as long as the sound is there in your ears. But if you know the meaning, the moment, whenever you hear, whenever you churn, whenever you think of it, it leads to utmost joy, the bliss.
But madam, all I wanted to say is when I take it.
In our culture, first of all, a performance is not a performance minus the audience. Spectators are part of the performance, and there are a certain expectations from the spectator also, the Sahridaya. But considering it's today, maybe they don't come with that kind of expertise or all those qualifications who are there.
Exactly.
So because of that, that is where actually that's the point where literature comes into place, because the next generation or the uninformed audience, spectator, unknowingly enjoys the power of the word when it is spelt correctly. Even if they don't get the complete meaning, as you said, absolutely, they may not get the complete meaning of it, but the enjoyment of the word itself, because there's a certain power in it, that goes across totally. Now, this lack of expertise in, or not even expertise, basic understanding of language is what is leading to prolonged preludes for each item. Before a dance performance, before each item, you have such long preludes, which in your own place, in a Telugu land, a Telugu song is being done, you have a 5 minutes prelude, which can be avoided with a little bit of knowledge in language. That's it. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Next question.
Namaste to everybody. Thank you. It was such a wonderful panel discussion. I had just one point I wanted to make, particularly to Dr. Vani's response now. So many of the panelists mentioned that music is a language and music has its own method of communication, and it was contrasted with language and saying language you have to what the process actually is that the word, you understand the meaning, you contemplate what it means to you, you respond to that word, and therefore there is emotion. Where I would like to put this thought across, that music also pretty much works in exactly the same way. Whereas language, you know the meaning of the words. In music, there is a meta language which musicians and people who are trained in music understand. Every phrase has its meaning. Every phrase has a position in its syntax. When you sing an alapana, you won't randomly put 10 phrases at any position. There is a method to singing it. There is a syntax in even in a free flowing thing like alapana, and therefore when you learn music, when you teach music, and when you understand that meta language is when the communication reaches you in a method that is exactly similar to what you mentioned that happens in language. This is one point I wanted to say. Second thing, Mrunalini Garu was asking Varija madam that how many languages can you learn as a dancer, and there musicians are also faced with a similar situation at many times. My thought on this, and this is just my personal opinion, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that what I have found very useful is learning Sanskrit, for the simple reason that Sanskrit is the fountainhead of so many of the other languages in India, and my own experience in learning Telugu was made tremendously simplified because of my background in Sanskrit, and similar with Kannada. So the thing is, if a musician or a dancer has a reasonable grounding in Sanskrit, if I had an opportunity where I had to sing some Robindra Sangeet and some Nazrul Giti, and I did not find it very strange, because many of the words I could recognize. Once you translate in terms of phonology, then it's easier to understand, because you know many of the words and you can relate to them in that way. So that was another point. Third and last point I would like to make is literature itself has something called the poetic license, where you can bend the rules of language in order to express certain things. Well, music also has a musical license, and when the song requires you to sing Tunta Vinti Vani Modalaina Mada Tunta Vinti Vani, if musically it makes sense for the syntax of the phrases to split at a certain point, then sometimes you could think of it as musical license, that the artist or the musician. I do not at any point advocate that people shouldn't know language. I myself take very, very great care to understand every word and sing it, and do advocate it to everybody in that I know. But nevertheless, there is a concept called musical license, and in order for the musicality to flow, I feel let's not just be rigid about something. We can be flexible at some places. If at some point we want to heighten the musicality, we can go ahead, and if some point we want to show the literary value of the song, we can show that off, and we don't have to really take a stand on one side and say this and not the other. That's about it. Thank you very much, and thank you for a wonderful discussion.
Thank you, Padma Garu. You did not ask a question, but you expressed a very succinctly your opinions. Is there another question? Any question?
There are more questions, madam. There are more questions. Dr. Amy Catlin, our board member, has a question for the panel.
Oh.
Dr. Amy, please go ahead.
Well, thank you so much. This has been fascinating to hear the point of view of the performers and the theorists and the musicologists and the dancers and the singers and the instrumentalists. And I'm just thinking more about the audiences who might not have access to those languages, and how can we help audiences with understanding the lyrics, which they might be very interested in learning and might be able to ask the person sitting next to them to translate simultaneously, but it's not always possible. And I was wondering if do you ever use program notes or translations of the lyrics, or project the subtitles like they do in the opera now, or project, how about inventing a hologram system? And I think someone here at University of Silicon Andhra could do this, could invent a hologram that would be able to make the words float by as they're being sung and with translation. So it's not intrusive, but just to give an entry for people who would love to know the deep, deep meanings behind these gorgeous lyrics. They're so profound. So I would just like to ask if you have any ideas about that. I'm a member of the board of the Music Circle. We're presenting a concert online. An online presentation is another opportunity for developing new techniques for communicating the verbal content of all of the compositions in Carnatic music. So we're presenting a concert on Sunday night, and you can come online and see it. Just go to the Music Circle, the website for the Music Circle in Pasadena, and you can see, we're calling it a dinner concert, but it's a bring your own dinner. So, with a presentation beforehand, and then a presentation of one ragam, tanam, and kriti on the violin instrumentally. But no one will know that this is a song with words. And after that, we'll have a presentation of Rag Kirvani in Hindustani form on the santur, in which there is probably a composition with a few words too, but we haven't planned to put out any lyrics for that. And I think it would be very useful. Even, I think sometimes observers can just, in the chat, can give hints about what the meaning of the lyrics are, because some people are deeply interested in that. And in my teaching, I try to do as much as I can with that, because it brings, there are different kinds of listeners. Some listeners get it just visually and orally, just the sound. And some listeners really want to know the meaning of the lyrics, especially if they are singers. Singers are probably the closest to the lyrics of the song. So I just wanted to ask you if you had any new ideas about presenting lyrics and meanings during.
Actually, many musicians are really mindful of that, I think, in present days performances. And we find many of the musicians who are really bothered about the listener's interest also to understand. They are trying to at least give the gist of the song. They are taking time from their concert to explain each and every song in just few minutes before they sing the song. That has been slowly getting into practice. And of course, on the YouTube videos, if you find, many people are giving like a subtitle, the meanings, word and meaning of the song. Slowly that's happening, and that's a wonderful and great idea, because then only even listening experience becomes complete. And as I just one point I want to say, when Mala ma'am said that Rasika's point of view has not been addressed, there are actually equal number of people, more than 50% of people, who come to the concert and say that Raga Lapana is like, it's going too long, I'm waiting for the compositions. Yeah. Even though they don't know the language of the composition, they would like to listen to the composition because of the maybe rhythmic structure in it, something precise. So there are equal number of people. I think it is the responsibility of the audience also to get connected to the compositions, if at all they are listening to a composition. And if not live, they can get back, note down the composition and see why this composition is being treated as a great composition, why Tyagaraja is known as a creative genius, not just only for the ragas. He has lot of lyrical content, right? So if audience also makes an attempt and try to get familiarized with at least few of the compositions, then definitely the experiences become rich. Same time, they also try to get used to listening to pure music like Alapana, Swarakalpana and all. And like Padma Garu said, of course, there are musical licenses everywhere, every time they are accepted. It is not to put down music or put down lyrics. As we all are saying, they are complementary to each other, and let us get the maximum experience, best experience of it. That is what our attempt is.
Yeah, you've always been saying they're interdependent. We are not saying they're exclusive of each other. Neither one is greater than the other. Nobody is saying that. Any other question?
Thank you, Saroj Garu. Yeah, there is one more question from Ameya King. Ameya, go ahead, please. I'm unmuting you.
Thank you, Raju sir. Namaskaram to the esteemed panel. The question I have is a bit focused on dance. In addition to understanding the words that express the meaning, I found that the grammatical structure of the Sahityam impacts how the idea or the image is revealed through the words. How would you navigate that aspect of how this image is built or how the idea is portrayed when we're trying to work through a choreography? Especially when we're working in a language that has a different grammatical structure than what we're used to.
You are absolutely right, Ameya, and you saw that with your choreography paper at the university, right? When you in the choreography course, and as Vasanta ma'am actually had addressed this to a certain extent, where she said, where you break the sentence makes the difference in the meaning. So for this, any number of dictionaries will not, that's the complexity of the language. So dictionaries will not tell you where the meaning of the song or the line itself. You need to go to the language expert. And the crux about this is, even if the language, like you did, we did this interdisciplinary, we are always doing this interdisciplinary activity in our, at our university. So even when you go there, even to receive what the language expert is telling you, you need to have your basic understanding of the language. And your basic sentience has to be in place. So the very awareness of the fact that the breaking of the sentence at the right point, half the battle is won. If you're aware that I know this word, I know this word, I know this word, so I put all this together and you come to your own meaning, it doesn't work that way. You still have to check with the expert. Is this the meaning that the poet is trying to tell you? Another, since you're a Kuchipudi dancer, and since we mostly do drama-based, Natya-based songs, another way of looking at it is, like you have done in your composers, the Vagekara's course, is also to see where the poet comes from. Each poet has their own cultural background, their own way of thought and way of writing. So it may be useful for you to understand who the poet is, what the background of the poet is, what the psyche, how has he written all the other songs generally, and so come from there to understand what you are really addressing, the song that you have taken. This is all touch and go, Ameya. There have been songs where every time I go back to it, there's a different meaning. So every time I perform it, there is a different exposition of it. But that's the beauty about it, right? That's what makes it so broad. Just one more question I'd like to answer, Rajgaru, that Bhagyashree has been asking. What about the pure dance pieces? What about the Tillanas and Swarajatis, Jatiswarams? So Bhagyashree, at the end of the Tillana, it has to culminate in Sahitya, okay? There has to be those 2 lines of Sahitya for the relief of the audience and the singer. So there is a certain kind of relief when the Sahitya, the word that you understand, comes in. When it comes to Jatiswarams, the origin of Jatiswaram is a piece called Swarapallavi. Swarapallavis were very, very short. Just 2 lines, 3 lines, maximum 4 lines. And when they were performed in dance, at least I don't know about music, I know that Swarapallavis at one time were made for dance. When they were performed, they were not performed for more than 3 or 4 minutes. That's the maximum they were performed for. And after that, it went into Abhinaya, the word, the Sahitya that was being expressed. So later the Jatiswarams were written for music basically. Then we as dancers have taken it and we are doing a complete Nritta piece of that, which is fantastic. But if you are doing a whole 2.5 hours performance of Nritta, then that has to be for a special audience, for a special occasion. And the whole purpose of that performance has to be different. Not in a regular kacheri aata that you're doing. Yeah. Right?
And thank you, Yashoda. Are there any more questions?
Yes, there is one more question, Mrunal Garu, one more question from Jayashri. Please ask the question.
Namaste, ma'am. Thank you for such an informative session. It was a very good discussion. So thank you for answering my question, ma'am. So I had the question about the Tilanas and Jatiswarams. So I had another question as well. So I want to understand what's the science behind the lip syncing. As a Kuchipudi dancer, we were told lip syncing is the way to express better. But if there is lip syncing and if there is no lip syncing, which one creates the rasa better? Like, does it have to do anything with conveying the literature a little bit better way with lip syncing? That's the question.
So when it comes to lip syncing, Jayashri, we have been told that lip syncing in Kuchipudi is Vachika Abhinaya. Please, it is not. Vachika Abhinaya is only dialogue. It is only when you say the dialogue on stage, that is Vachika Abhinaya. Lip syncing is something that has come to us because our seniors used to sing it on stage. I personally would say it is a very subjective situation. First of all, when you're doing characters, you will not sing the background song. You will not keep singing Nari Maniki when you're doing Dushasana or Duryodhana character. There you must use your mouth to depict the character to its fullest and not sing that song. Another thing is, I also think it's according to what suits your face, and your psyche. Few of us, I have been so used to lip syncing, so I do have to move my lips to a certain extent, but I also sing as an undertone, that's what gives me my emotion. But it may not happen the same way with others. Also, if it doesn't suit your face, I would say do an introspection. If it doesn't suit the way we are made, don't do it. Do it the way it suits you. Do what suits your face. It's just a matter of aesthetic. The minute it is not Vachika Abhinaya, it doesn't matter whether you do the lip sync or not. And it has nothing to do with rasa. Rasa is something to do with sattva, your inner self, and how much of that is put out there. Let's work on that. Let's work on the journey inwards.
I just want to add with Yashoda, I think it's like communicating when you're talking. If I do only the action, you may not enjoy that much. When I'm saying, giving my lip movement, you feel that I'm communicating with you and you will be more connected. That's why maybe our old gurus must have told that you have to give, as Yashoda said, it is in Bharatanatyam and other dance forms, they don't give lip movement at all. That doesn't mean that they are not creating rasa anubhuti, nothing. But maybe for the viewers to feel that the dancer is communicating with me, for that we may be using this.
It's more subjective. Okay.
We will take one final question, and Mrunalini Garu, you can conclude that after that.
Namaste to all. It was a good section, sir. I have a question. We have a different ragas in Carnatic music and different nayikas in dance, where one raga is used in different nayikas, where the different situations. For example, I have a Surati Padam in Dendu Vachitivira, where the nayika is Khandita Nayiki. And we have a Tamil Padam also, where Yeda Kittanai Tulambaramaye, Yeda Kittanai Modida Unaka Yenamidaya. So, where the situation is quite opposite with the previous one. In Dendu Vachitivira is Nayika, where is Khandita, but here it is not a Khandita. Yeda Kittanai Modida Unaka Yenamidaya. So, the first one is Khandita, the second one is pleasing with same ragam, with same Surati ragam. My question is whether the ragam, how does the ragam helps in both the situations, or whether we have to follow the language to express, or whether how does the music helps for us in this?
Naturally, language comes to rescue, but musically also, if you want to see, there is this rhythm. There are actually many things that come together to bring about that variations in the emotions. It may be of course, language is quite clear in communicating because it's the words, clarity is there. But other than that, when you want to address the ragas, I would always say, I felt and I have learned from experts that every ragam has multiple emotions hidden in it. So you should be clever enough to bring out the emotions using the tools like rhythm, the particular phrases, the tonal quality, if you are trying to include instruments also in the background, and the intensity with which you are singing. Sometimes you are loud, sometimes you are less in volume.
Okay.
So all these things come together, help us to clearly differentiate the emotions. So like how we talk, sometimes we talk unknowingly very, very fast. When you are angry, you talk very fast. You don't talk word by word. And so when you are sad, naturally you become low paced in. So all these things, the regular expressions that we use in life, all these things put together, and there are certain ragas which have some innate qualities. People are known to experience a particular raga in a particular emotion. Those things actually people make mostly the use of. But when you asked about Surati, which actually shows different emotions in two different songs, it is all these things put together that clarifies the communication that this is this emotion and that is that emotion.
Thank you, Saroja, for your answer. As
Gamakas
Mr. Raju was
also,
saying,
gamakas also,
yeah.
like intensifying the gamaka sometimes, lessening and highlighting the straight notes. All these things actually help a lot. Yeah.
So, thank you. I think with this we conclude today's session. So I'm sure many people want to ask more questions and make more comments that will be taken up at a later date in some other session. I'm very thankful to everyone, both the panelists and the audience who have been silent and also have been active, both the audience. I would like to thank them. As a conclusion, these subjects are not really very conclusive because you can keep on talking and arguing about them for till eternity. But I would like to say that when, depending on the audience, because there was a criticism that audience were not taking into account when the discussion is going on. So I would like to say that if it's pure music, it has a set of audience to enjoy it. Like Yashoda was talking about, when do you play only Nritta, only Jatiswara? When you have a proficient audience who are already well versed in the dance, they will enjoy a 2-hour Nritta or Jatiswara. Similarly, in music as well, if you are catering to one particular session of Vidvans, okay, you can do it just Ragam, Tanam, Naraval and Swarakalpana, pure Manodharma. You don't have to go to the Kriti. But why do you go to the Kriti? You have a Raga, you do Raga Lapana, you do Tanam, but ultimately you go to Pallavi. In any kacheri, nobody goes away just singing Raga, Tanam and Swarakalpana, right? That means you are taking the aid of Sahitya. Without a Kriti, you don't need Tyagaraja, you don't need Annamaya, you don't need Dikshita, you don't need Papanasham Shivan, you don't need Purandara at all. If you think music is pure, it is an entity in itself. If we think so, we don't need them. But actually we need them because that's what I'm saying. In a general audience, language makes a difference. They will be even much more, edible to the audience when they are all mingled together, when they all come together, when they're complementary to each other. I think that's where we can stop. And I would like to thank Silgarandhra University, Rajgar also, for giving us an opportunity to share our thoughts on language, music, and dance in a very wide platform with so many people participating in it. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Mrunalali Garu. Thank you everyone for joining. For folks who are in America, thank you, July 4th. I mean, enjoy the July 4th. This weekend, it's unlike any other July 4th weekend, but we'll celebrate it in our own way at our homes. More details about the University of Silicanandra programs are on our website, universityofsilicanandra.org. We have an amazing team of faculties in all the 5 departments: Telugu, Sanskrit, Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi dance, and Carnatic music. We are offering master's, diploma, and certificate programs. Please take advantage of them. And please spread the word kindly to everybody that you know who can benefit from our programs. Thank you. Good night, one and all. Namaskaram.
Namaskar. Namaskar.